All right, in this lesson, we're going to look at lens distortion removal. This is commonly associated with GoPro cameras where you have the really widescreen, almost fisheye looking footage that kind of distorts around the edges. So we're going to look at how we can remove that. In this lesson, I'm going to be using example clip 2 that's included with the project file. So I'm going to click on that clip and just drag it down here to create a new composition. This clip is also 4K, so I'm going to right click, go to composition settings. I'm going to change this to 1920 by 1080. And I'm going to name the composition GoPro Fix. And I'm going to click OK. All right, now we can see our footage is much bigger than our composition, so I'm going to select the footage. I'm going to go up here to Layer, Transform, Fit to Comp Height. All right, so that's going to scale our footage down to fit perfectly in the 1080p composition. I'm going to close this tracker window here just so we have a little bit more room. And here's a very common example of the distortion that a GoPro gives the footage. So this is just an aerial clip flying forward over some scenic terrain. And we can see how the fisheye basically gives the earth kind of a round appearance. And this distortion effect can be very distracting if it's not like an action style video. And what we really want is for our footage to look more cinematic. Luckily for us, this is a really easy fix. I'm gonna go up here to Effect. I'm gonna go to Distort and the Effect Optics Compensation. Before I dive into the settings of this effect, I want to explain a little bit of what it's going to be doing and why it's better to always use a 4K shot when using this effect. It's effectively going to be stretching and scaling the pixels around the edges to basically remove this lens distortion. But since we're working with a 4K shot that's not pre-composed, it's just scaled down to this 1080p composition, we've effectively got more pixel density to work with. So we're going to get a higher quality result because we're using a 4K shot. Now, the first option we have here is field of view, and I'll just pull this up a little bit so we can see what this is doing. And right off the bat, you're going to notice that this is not working the way we need it to work. And you're going to want to check on this checkbox here, Reverse Lens Distortion. Now we can see what this effect is doing a lot more. So if I pull this up here, the higher I pull it, you can see the horizon line starts to level out, and that's what we want. We basically want this to be perfectly level. And I recommend anywhere between 70 and 75 is what I found for a GoPro that tends to work the best when shooting in the wide lens angle. So I'm just going to type in 75 here. And I think that looks pretty good here. We can see the horizon looks pretty level. We're not getting very much distortion. I'm going to check the effect on and off here just so you can see what's happening around the edges. You can see how it's basically pulling the pixels to straighten everything out. Now, one thing you might notice is the horizon looks straight, but it's not quite level. And this is very common with aerial footage. And it's a very easy fix as well. A lot of times the gimbal will get off by a degree or two. So your shot is effectively, everything is effectively rotated about 1 degree. So what we can do here, I'm going to click on the clip. I'm just going to hit R on the keyboard, bring up rotation. Basically, I can rotate this, I think about -1 degree there. That's looking a lot straighter. You can check this by clicking on the rulers. And if you click up here, you can pull down on this little red bar. And that's going to show you basically a level line. So we can just kind of preview that. And that horizon looks pretty level there. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the rulers and the guides. That way we can just see this a little clearer. Close the info box here. All right, now another thing you'll notice here is we now have this black in the top corners and kind of around the edges. It's because we rotated it. So we need to scale this up just a touch. So I'm going to hit S on the keyboard while I have the clip selected. And I'm going to, instead of having it at 50%, I'm going to set it at 52%. And there we go. It's just enough so we're not getting anything cut off here. And our terrain looks perfectly level. And now our shot, the lens distortion is gone. So this already looks really good. It's going to be a lot more cinematic. Now, one thing this does do is it kind of crops in on the shot. So if we want to get the entire wide angle of the shot without having the lens distortion, we can check this checkbox over here, which is Optimize Pixels. And now we can see we have a much wider shot all the way through from each side of the frame. Looks a lot closer to our original shot here. I'm just going to turn the effect on and off just so you can see this. So now we're really seeing the full width of the shot and everything's just been straightened up. But now notice we have these black areas at the top and the bottom. That's because it's basically bending the image, but now we have these areas at the top and bottom that need to be filled in. And the easiest way to get rid of this is just to add some aspect ratio bars at the top and bottom of the footage, like a 2:3:5 aspect ratio. I've included a 2:3:5 image overlay in the project files, and I'm going to grab that and overlay that now. So I'll just grab this aspect ratio overlay, put it over my footage here, and it's formatted for a 1080p composition. Now you can see this covers up the top and the bottom. We're getting a very widescreen appearance on our shot. We can scroll through here. Let's drag this down so we can see. I'll do a quick RAM preview of this just so we can see what it looks like. All right, so now we can see this shot has the lens distortion completely removed. Looks much more cinematic. We're getting a very wide angle shot, but again, we don't have that distortion. I'm going to show you what this looks like again before and after the effect here. There's after, and there's before. We can't even see the top horizon line here because of our aspect ratio markers. But that just shows you how distorted the shot actually was and what we can bring it back to after we do the lens distortion removal. In the next lesson, we're going to look at some basic color correction techniques for aerial footage.